The 5-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers stand alone atop the NFC after an absolute battle with the San Francisco 49ers. The injuries continue, but in some ways the Bucs are getting healthier. They have a character-building game, another character-building game here against the Lions in a little under a week. We're going to break that down, plus much more on today's post-game episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast.
I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Those up with the head. Intercepted. At the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast, live on a Victory Monday. Yet another Victory Monday as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 5-1 as of this recording, the number 1 seed in the NFC. I am your host, Rhett Matthew. Joined alongside me as always, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. How you doing, my friend? This is quite a start to the season the Bucs have developed for themselves here. 5-1 for the first time since 2021.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I think that was the last time I sort of viewed the Bucs as like a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Like that 2021 season. Like obviously before the 2022 season, you had hopes, but then you quickly realized like, okay, like it's not gonna happen. But 2021 was like the last I would argue like 2021 as far as talent was actually better than the 2020 team, right? So, yeah, they're in pretty good company right now, and a heck of a win. Really a statement win, right? And I understand that San Francisco was down some guys, right? And people noted that, but to me, and I would note that as well, if the Bucs weren't also missing guys, right? To me, it sort of evens itself out. And obviously, the 49ers go into the game with Fred Warner. He leaves very early with a gruesome injury. So obviously that hurts them a lot, but you can even say that evened out because in the second half, the Bucs lost Emeka Egbuka for that second half. So I can't really, come on here and say, well, the Bucs won, but San Francisco was missing this, and this when and the broadcast actually kept getting it wrong because they kept not mentioning Jalen McMillan. Jim Nantz was saying about how, well, yeah, Baker Mayfield's doing this with his 4, 5, and 6 wide receivers. I was like, no, it's actually 5, 6, and 7 because Jalen McMillan hasn't played a snap this season yet. So, yeah, very, very impressive win. I thought both sides of the ball were pretty good overall. Honestly, one of the more impressive wins I think in Todd Bowles' tenure as head coach. To be honest with you, this is really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. A huge win all around. A big day for quarterback Baker Mayfield, who you just talked about. He's throwing to wide receiver 5, 6, 7. Threw a touchdown to wide receiver 8. Cam Johnson finds the end zone. 4 receptions, led the team 64 yards and a touchdown. Led the team in receiving yards. So, I mean, Cam Johnson, K-Dot, and Sterling Shepard, who we have talked a ton about so far this season. Tez Johnson with his first career touchdown. And what a touchdown to do it, huh? 45 yards through the air from Baker Mayfield on a drive that already included just another one of these, I have to call it trademark at this point, the escape artist, if you will, getting out of a sack like Houdini on 3rd and 14 for another week in a row. Baker, MF, and Mayfield, dude. I don't even know where to start with this game. And on top of that, we haven't even mentioned the defense. That's the other side of the coin here. The fact that the defense is now reaching a point where they are dangerous, they are taking the ball away, and from what we saw against Mac Jones, who really, I think, outside of being as rattled as he was, did a good job getting the ball out of his hands, finding the open man. He was kind of picking the Bucs apart.
He played well. Yeah.
He played well, and they still managed to rattle him, force him to make some mistakes, and ultimately some game-changing mistakes there in the second half. But it starts early with that Jamel Dean interception. And a big thing...
Kindle Vildor,
excuse me. A big thing throughout this game, I think, was just the different ways they were able to... I don't want to say neutralize San Francisco, but they had an answer. Todd Bowles, I think, had a really good game, kind of like you said, a very impressive win for Todd Bowles and company. But where do you want to start here? There is so much to break down, and I know that we are coming into this a day late. We do have some more updates than we would have had right after kickoff, but better late than never to talk about a classic Bucs win like this one.
I think we got to start with Baker. Look, I mean, what he's been able to do with the lack of weapons, and I mean, look, the supporting cast isn't bad, right? And it speaks to the Bucs' depth for one. Like it speaks to their depth at the receiver room. Guys like Kate Otten stepping up, Sterling Shepard obviously making plays and everything like that. But what he's been able to do, right? And Luke Haggard goes down in that game too. Elijah Klein has to come in. Not sure if we got an update on Haggard or not. Might have to be something you kind of wait and see on throughout practice, but it's been incredible. And you're about just willing a team to win, and that's that 3rd and 14. That's the best example, right? Like that's the best example you're gonna find. He's now had, last year, against San Francisco when Nick Bosa is draped all over him and he just refused to go down. Obviously, that game didn't work out in the Bucs' favor, but it's stuff like that. It's that escapability against Houston to keep that game alive. That was on 4th down, an even more critical situation. He gets sacked there, that game's over, right? So that's an even more critical situation than this one was. But Baker Mayfield gets sacked, yesterday on that 3rd and 14. They're punting. Man, they're only up 1. I don't know if they win that game. Like, I really don't know if they win. Great job. Really, I mean, that's like, I was sitting there watching the run. I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's incredible. And you're truly never out of it with him. But, like, the game, sure, you're never out of it. But, like, the play, you're never out of it because he's so good at extending plays and so good at just buying time and creating stuff on his own that, and it's not going to work that way every time, sure. But it is fun, very fun to watch when he's on and when it's working, and you can see that swagger and everything. So right now, I mean, he's the front runner, for MVP, and obviously Josh Allen plays tonight. I would say probably, the other guy that you could consider in that spot, but yeah, I thought Baker Mayfield was tremendous against a pretty tough defense too. I know they're missing some guys, but pretty tough defense as well. And that's now the 2nd straight week where I thought he's played really well against a pretty good defense.
Yeah, and to kind of tack on more to the point of what he's been able to do with just the lack of reinforcements around him. I mean, the first quarter of the season, you could argue he's working with a makeshift offensive line. Still not 100% healthy in that regard. Haggard goes down. Elijah Klein comes in. And really, just a quick shout out to Elijah Klein because I know that on the PFF score, he's not going to finish necessarily favorably. But he came into that game and immediately picked up a really nice lead block for Rachaad White. I know it was like a 5 or 6 yard carry to the left-hand side. Like, it's going to be very forgettable. But the fact that he was the pulling guard on that play, his first snap in the game, comes out and sets up a textbook block. You love to see that stuff. So hopefully he can play consistent moving forward because depending on what kind of updates we get on a Luke Haggard, he could be the guy. And I know there's been some talking points all year about Elijah Klein, and I think this could be our first real chance to see what he's made of. But back to Baker. Doing all of this with a makeshift offensive line, and now continuing to do it and win games without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin likely not going to play again this week. Mike Evans, that conversation a little bit different. But still no Jalen McMillan for at least another 3 or 4 weeks. And now without Emeka Egbuka, who you can't even say at this point, oh, he's just a rookie, because he was the guiding light in that wide receiver room. And the numbers supported it. He was off to one hell of a start, one of the more productive wide receivers in the NFL. Luckily, you do have guys that are stepping up. Cam Johnson, again, leading the team. Kate Otten, who we had talked about this season, taking up a huge role blocking as part of that makeshift offensive line. People had started asking, where's Kate Otten? They need to get him involved in this pass game. If the Bucs are going to pay him, he needs to be more productive. Well, he was. 5 catches for 51 yards. He's become a more dependable target for Baker Mayfield as the year goes on. Can't say enough good things about Sterling Shepard. 2 receptions for 51 yards. And then I'm excited to see Ches Johnson get a little more involved here. I think that I don't want to say it's concerning because, again, we have reached a point where, like, all of my questions on the offense are kind of negated by as of right now. The fact that we have Baker Mayfield, like I can't believe I've reached that point. But he's playing like that this season, and he's continuing to protect the football. He is had at least 2 plays that I can think of that are directly responsible for a Buccaneers victory. So like, that's our offense. That's the definition of MVP at the end of the year, in my opinion. Most valuable player. It a lot of times ends up being about the popularity contest or the stats, but the fact that he is the guy making these plays on the offensive side of the ball with as depleted as a room as he has around him, when this Bucs team finally gets healthy, that's gonna be that's gonna be pretty crazy to see when you think about aspirations of where this team can eventually end up in the grand scheme of the NFL. We talked about, best case scenario NFC Championship appearance. And as long as the Bucs keep stacking wins like this, hopefully if and when they get healthy, I'd like to imagine they're going to be a dangerous team, especially when you have a QB who's playing with just such a ginormous chip on his shoulder at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like to the point where it almost doesn't matter who's out there. Like it's almost like when and I'm not saying that the Bucks are this team or Baker is this guy, but it's almost like in like the heyday, of Tom Brady and the Patriots, right? Where like yeah, like they don't have and obviously the Bucks do have this, they're just not healthy. But like, yeah, they don't have the top receivers, and like they're not paying big money to these guys and this guy, to have all these weapons. And oh my God, who are you going to cover? But they're going to find a way to win, right? Like they're just going to find a way. And right now, that's sort of what it's like, right? Like watching this Bucks offense, it's almost like I have in the back of my mind that like yeah, like when Emeka Ibuka, right? When it's announced, and I didn't really see when he got injured. Don't really know when it happened. It wasn't like an obvious thing. And then it said, doubtful to come back. And I just sort of had in my head, I was kind of like, yeah, that sucks. But like, I don't know. Not to say that it didn't matter, because it definitely didn't matter. But like, I wasn't really worried. I was like, I just think they're gonna be able to find a way to. Now, obviously, over the long haul, sure. Like you're not gonna win a Super Bowl with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Ibuka. I don't have much confidence in that. But I think for these games that you need to win, like I have faith in this offense that somehow, some way, they're gonna be able to make enough plays to win.
Yeah, and the 49ers, again, I mean, this is going to be a talking point that's brought up continuously, but they are a team decimated with injuries, and yes, they did lose Fred Warner throughout that contest. But I think that I ultimately think that with this being a quality win in the NFC, and with Tampa Bay, as of right now, they're only lost to Philly. Philly's kind of falling apart in their own regard. I mean, this is the cycle that they seem to go through. But I think for the Bucs, it was also kind of a long time coming. It felt like they needed a win like this against San Francisco, but you also talk about it not necessarily feeling in doubt. I kind of had that gut feeling, and it's dominating the games the more that we watch. Before, it was kind of like this feeling would come around, end of the third quarter, start of the fourth, but now it's happening sooner and it's staying around longer, especially in games this season. That first interception, the Kindle Vildor interception, and we'll dive deeper into the defense here in a minute. But from that moment on, I'm like, oh, that's going to kind of be the one play that you can look at as a difference maker, because I still expected Mac Jones to take care of the football as the game went on.
Yep.
I still expected him to kind of continue to carve up the Bucs at some point, and he did. He threw for 200 yards in that first half or something?
Yeah,
like
200
that?
exactly.
Yeah. So I knew they were going to move the ball, but that was a game-changing play. And the fact that it came from the defense, and it's becoming more of a trend for them to make plays. I felt good about this game. Even though it got a little bit hairy, we're starting to get to the point with this team. And again, don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket. Don't want to get ahead of myself. But we are starting to get to that point with this Bucs team where I'm just more confident as these games go on. Like, yeah, they're going to win. They're going to find a way to win without question. They're going to make it happen.
Yeah, and I mean, look, and I don't think you've been able to say that Probably since 2021, maybe. Like I haven't been able to say that confidently, at least, right? To where you have that belief of like, kind of like no matter the situation. To me, I basically thought they were gonna win once that the Baker run happens, and then obviously you have 2 plays later, and the Tej Johnson touchdown happens. Like once that happened, I was like, okay. I was like, I think they're gonna win. That like sort of sealed it for me. I'm like, that's two back-breaking plays, especially the third and long. Like 3rd and 14, you got the dude sacked. He's about to punt, and then he gets out of it. And not only does he get out of that, but then he makes another guy miss. And you're like, okay, just get him down, and then he ends up getting the first down. That's demoralizing for a defense, right? And then, like I said, literally 2 plays later, you're giving up a 45-yard touchdown. So for the Bucs to extend the lead, that's just, to me, that was the nail in the coffin. Obviously, the Niners had some opportunities, and you're right. We'll talk about the defense. I thought it was a pretty good, defensive day. I know there's some people frustrated in the first half. There's some of like the yardage and stuff given up, but they did a lot of good things. So, and the defense obviously was able to shut the door. So it wasn't like that clinched the game like completely, but it was just a feeling, right? Of just like, man, like really feels like all the momentum is on Tampa Bay's side, and it's gonna take a lot for it to flip. So yeah, I thought those 2 plays right there, that was the game.
Yeah.
But you're right about starting fast, and the Bucs have started. The Bucs have talked about that 2 weeks ago. Before the Seattle game, they talked about starting fast and more specifically on offense, but the offense didn't really start that fast on Sunday, but the defense did. The defense sort of picked up their slack, and then the offense was able to punch it in, quickly. So I think just a tone setter for that as well. And yeah, there's just a belief right now that, no matter sort of what the situation is, what situation you're in, that you're going to be able to find a way, whether you're down 10 or whether you're up 10. You're going to be able to find a way. If you're down 10, you're going to be able to find a way to claw back in it. If you're up 10, you're going to be able to secure the W, basically. So, well, it's not always going to be the prettiest, right? But I think all that matters is, you pick up the W. Like in the box score, it's not going to say like, oh, W, but. Like it's not. It's gonna show up as a W. So that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, there is no asterisk next to your record in the NFL. So with that being said, before we move on to the defense here, I just want to highlight some more guys on the offense. Want to make sure they don't go overlooked, specifically Rachaad White and Sean Tucker.
Yeah.
The two running backs. Owen Wright got a single snap, by the way, a practice squad elevation. I
didn't notice that.
He did get he got one single snap, and let's not forget this was his NFL debut. He was a practice squad guy. Got called up this week because Josh Williams, now the third running back without Bucky Williams in the lineup, he had a concussion, could not play. So Wright gets called up. He gets one single snap, and guess what it was? Tampa Bay's first victory formation of the season. Yeah,
that's why I didn't notice it.
Yeah, another thing to consider too. We talked about it briefly, but 30-19, the cardiac Bucs did not make an appearance this week. They had this game well in tow within the last.
Right when McLaughlin makes the field goal, I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I was like, knowing this team, I was like, he's gonna miss it, and then the 49ers are gonna have a shot. Because also the broadcast kept mentioning that like the 49ers this season, all they've played is one possession games. Like both these teams, it's the same thing.
Well, let's not forget, Money Mac already had the one miss under his belt from earlier, and that was just a backbreaker. Needed that one bad. That was the way I had kind of reacted to it, and I had that feeling sinking in, but. The overwhelming optimism of they're going to win this game ultimately was able to stick with me. But Rachaad White and Sean Tucker, specifically Rachaad White, 17 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Now, again, this isn't going to blow you away. He had 3 catches, 21 yards as well. It's not the most explosive thing you're going to see, but I think it just speaks to the persona that Rachaad White has in this offense. What's the word I'm looking for? Situational, and just like his conversions, his carries were huge. I felt like he had multiple 2, 3, 4
just what
carries.
You needed, basically.
Right. It was able to extend drives for Tampa Bay. It kept them on the field. It kept things fresh, and I just think that in the grand scheme of things, Rachaad White doesn't get enough love for his ground game. He's done a decent job. Again, it hasn't been as explosive because he doesn't have that air of unpredictability that like a Bucky Irving has when he has the football in his hands, but he's going to get the job done. And he showed up big again in pass protection. I thought the offensive line specifically did a really good job of protecting Baker this week against San Francisco. So Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, both found the end zone as well. 6 carries, 25 yards for Sean Tucker. I would have liked to see him maybe get some more work. But I guess we'll just see what happens as the weeks go by here. But your thoughts on the run game this week?
Yeah, I thought it was just like you sort of said. I thought it was kind of just what they needed, and it wasn't, like you mentioned, it wasn't explosive, but like, I'll tell you what, like, even when Bucky Irving's back, like, the Bucks have a 3rd and 2 and they want to run the ball. I trust Rachaad White to get those 2 yards much more than Bucky Irving. Like, not saying that Bucky Irving can't, but it's just, I have a lot of confidence in Rachaad White in those situations.
There's less of a chance that Rachaad White ends up 4 yards in the backfield.
Right.
And again, it doesn't happen often with Bucky, but it happens enough to where, like you said, I think that when you just need to get north and south for those 2 yards, he's your guy.
Yeah. So, and at the end of the day, especially against teams that are quality football teams, like the 49ers are, against those teams, you're going to need those conversions, right? You're going to need those 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, keep the drive alive. You're going to need those. And that's exactly what Rachaad White ended up doing. Sean Tucker, nice for him to find the end zone as well. So pretty nice run there. I thought they were really good. And you're going to see him again because, as with Chris Godwin, it sounds like Bucky Irving's sort of in the same boat to where it's not going to be out there on Monday night against Detroit. So you're probably going to be, my guess, and this is just a guess, but my guess is, and we'll talk about the injuries on Friday and stuff like that. But my guess is with the bye week coming up, right? You got 2 more games and you got the bye week. My guess is in an ideal world for Tampa, they probably hold Bucky Irving out these next 2 games and make sure that he is good to go for after the bye week. And I also think that might be the same case with like Emeka Egbuka and maybe even Chris Godwin. Like, I really think they might just be trying to survive these next 2 games as healthy as possible and get to the bye week, so that they can pretty much almost all return, week 10 versus New England. We'll see. But I mean, look, if Bucky's out for even maybe after the bye week, sure, this offense is better when Bucky Irving's a part of it, but I have faith in Rachaad White and Sean Tucker. I think they're capable of doing it. Is it going to be the flashiest thing in the world? Is it going to be the 120 yard rushing days? Maybe not, right? But they're going to be the plays that are going to be on the highlight reels. Oh my God, he breaks 5 tackles and goes upfield for 25 yards. Probably not, but they're going to move the chains. They're going to do the little things right. And I think that's what matters, especially in the NFL when just your margins, right, are so razor thin that one play can sort of make or break it. And I was a big fan of Rachaad White's game on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think it emphasizes also the point of just winning these games and stacking W's early, right? Because now here you are 2 games away from the bye week, a very important break in the season at this point when you're a team as ravaged as injuries as the Bucs are. But having these wins under your belt, getting this big win against San Francisco, they're going to be looked at as a wounded team. But if you lose to Detroit, and
it's not the end of the world,
and you just so happen to lose to New Orleans, I mean, worst case scenario, you're walking into the bye week 5-3, which
absolute worst case.
All right, not necessarily great after a 5-1 start,
Sure.
and these 2 teams being the competition in front of you. But with that being said, like, there is a lot to build off of in the right direction. I don't have a stat in front of me, but I'm sure that there are some Super Bowl winners who have been 5-3 at some point across NFL history. Maybe we have some advanced analytics guys in the chat tonight. They can hook it up. But in the meantime, let's get over to the other side of the football here and talk about this Buccaneers defense, my friend. 6 sacks, 2 interceptions. And the important thing about those 6 sacks is that 5 of them came from a 4-man front. How do you feel about that?
That's what you need.
That's what you need.
Right?
Listen, you can call it a cleanup sack because, again, hanging on to the ball too long. You're a desperate offense trying to hang into this game. Yeah. Coverage sack. Whatever, dude. In the same week that the Denver Broncos got 9 sacks in London against New York, I'm perfectly okay with 6 total sacks for Tampa Bay. Really good day for the pass rush. I thought that throughout this one, they did a good job of making Mac Jones inconsistent. They just inconsistent, not very comfortable, second guessing his reads. There was a really, really good film breakdown making the rounds on Twitter a little bit earlier today. I believe, let me look this up just so I can make sure I am correct. I believe it was Ben Solak, but let me be 100% positive here. I like too much stuff on Twitter. It's going to take me a second. Bam, 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 bam. Yes, it was Ben Solak. Jamel Dean had a sack in this game. And not only did Jamel Dean have a sack, he had a strip sack. And it was because of adjustments that Todd Bowles made throughout the game to counter Christian McCaffrey.
Really good video. If you guys are on Twitter, Ben Solak on Twitter is a writer for ESPN now, but it was, with the Draft Network, all that stuff. About a 4-minute video. Well worth the time. Very much so. And also speaks to just the adjustments that all these coaches make in game. It's crazy the amount of detail that goes into it.
Yeah. 363 total yards for San Francisco. So again, I mean, this was an offense that was able to move the ball, but the difference is being these mistakes. You want to beat a top tier team in the NFC. If you're San Francisco and you want to beat the Bucs, can't turn the ball over.
Yep.
And that's exactly what they did. I think that a lot of people, truthfully, looking at the defensive performance so far this season, I think a lot of people can agree that this is the most complimentary football we've seen all year from this Bucs squad.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, look, they start off the game basically like that, right? The offense has to punt, and then you're sort of like, okay, well, we'll see how this defense does, and against Kyle Shanahan, who has done very well, in the past against Todd Bowles, and then right away you get a turnover, right? And you got a little bit of luck there, but you need luck, you need luck on your side sometimes, and the offense turns it right into 7 points, as a couple plays later. So that's the definition of just complimentary football. Should have been a pick six, but Kendall Vildor, I guess, is walking like sand. I don't know what he's doing.
He couldn't even.
He put butter on the bottom of his shoes. I don't know.
I texted everyone I knew. He couldn't even believe he caught it. It was one of those things where it just ended up in his hand. And a great play from Kendall Vildor, by the way. He's playing pretty far off coverage in there. Just comes down, reads the play, and is able to snag it away. So I like to see that stuff. And he definitely could have just walked it in. He looked like Trevor Lawrence on Monday Night Football a couple of weeks ago against Kansas City, where he just kind of fell down, got up, fell down again, and then ultimately
that's the thing. Okay, you fall down once, that's fine. Then you get up and you fall down again, and then he tries to get up one more time, he falls down again. I'm like, what is going on here? Man, oh man, I was like, he got so excited that he couldn't walk, he couldn't move. So yeah, I mean, I thought the defense played pretty well. And look, I think the biggest thing, we talk about the yards, and obviously San Francisco outgained the Bucs in yards at the end of the day. But you know what the difference is? The field goals. The Bucs were able to keep them out of the end zone and force them to kick field goals instead of touchdowns. That's the key. So to be able to do that's huge, right? I believe the 49ers only scored one touchdown in this game. They had one touchdown in this game, and the rest were field goals. So, Eddie Pinheiro, if you had him on your fantasy team, yeah, great day, right? But that was the key there, being able to hold them out of the end zone. And some of them, credit to Pinheiro. I think he hit 2 50-plus yarders. So, the Bucs were not making it easy on them. And you're right. The Bucs won this game. Okay, the Bucs won the turnover battle. If you do that, more often than not, you're going to be able to win the game. And that's what you have to do against good teams. Look, I understand the 49ers are banged up, but I still think that is a quality team. I think when healthy, and I understand the words when healthy are key there, when healthy, I still think the Rams are probably the best team in the NFC West, even though the 49ers just beat them. But I think the 49ers are probably better than the Seahawks, just slightly. But I mean, look, the 49ers are a quality football team, even without the guys. Mac Jones, I saw some people on Twitter, sort of complaining about, oh, Mac Jones is tearing them up. And I'm like, this is what Mac Jones has been doing. Like, it's not like Mac Jones has been playing bad, then all of a sudden he goes up against the Bucs and he's fantastic. Like, he was great for San Francisco in the first three starts. Like, they've been playing good football. They just went to LA on the road and won a game in overtime against the Rams, who a lot of people think are a Super Bowl contender. That's big, right? So it's a quality opponent. I understand that they have their injuries, but so do the Bucs. The Bucs were without Zion McCollum in this game. Um, obviously still without Kalijah Kancey in this game, and Benjamin Morrison out. Jacob Parrish ends up going out for a little bit, ends up coming back. He just got the wind knocked out of him, I think. But so there's a lot of stuff there, right? And I do think that this is a positive sign for the defense. Last week, look, I mean, you're gonna have those games, right? Like it's the NFL. You're not gonna be perfect every week, but I've been pretty impressed with this defense. I think it's a pretty good unit, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. And I think that, the depth guys making these plays is one of the more important things. Firstly, on the sack total, we had kind of highlighted coming into this game a really interesting stat last week about the Buccaneers front four, their pass rush, in facing quick throws. How they had faced the second highest percentage of quick throws in the NFL. And what a quick throw is classified as 2.5 seconds. If you can get the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, that is classified as a quick throw. Did you know that coming into that game against San Francisco, there had only been 7 league-wide sacks against quick throws this season? So the fact that the Buccaneers were second against quick throws coming into this, I think, is an interesting point. It's going to be brought up a lot. But, this pass rush is at a point where, man, if you can make any kind of quarterback flustered or second guess himself. I mean, Mac Jones was getting rid of the football as quick as any other QB we have seen so far this season. And they have faced some guys getting rid of the football very quick. If he had a moment to second guess himself or try and make something happen in the pocket because things were breaking down one way or the other, the Bucs were there. And that's where it felt like this week more than others, the pass rush is finally hitting home. All these almost sacks are finally showing up on your television screen because Mac Jones has to take an extra second and a half to go to his third read because Greg Gaines just dropped back into coverage and is covering Tristan McCaffrey. So I think stuff like that is going to be interesting to see as the year goes on. I'd like to see the sack total continue to rise. I'm curious what the league rankings are right now. I don't have them in front of me, but again, some of these guys, some of these depth players stepping up and making plays. Vita Vea obviously was a wrecking crew out there, but C.J. Brewer had a half sack this week. Elijah Roberts, the rookie defensive lineman, had a half sack this week. He's already been getting after the quarterback these last several weeks because he's been getting more playing time without Kalijah Kancey out there. Kendall Vildor had an interception because Zion McCollum isn't playing. He came in, and honestly, outside of that interception, had a strong game as well. Tez Johnson with a 45-yard touchdown. Cameron Johnson leading the team in receiving with a 38-yard touchdown mixed in there somewhere as well.
He also made 2 clutch plays. Almost, it was like almost like the same exact play. That sort of iced the game, kind of. Really get him down there and get in the field goal range. But the Bucs right now are tied with the Chargers and the Colts with 16 sacks. That's tied for, I believe, was it 6th or 7th in the NFL? Okay. So they're up there, and obviously, look, like, they have 6 sacks, on Sunday. Like, it helps. You're not gonna get 6 sacks every
Jamel
game.
Dean had one. That was what I was gonna get to.
His first
as well.
career sack.
Yeah,
his first career sack. Yep.
Had a sack and an interception in the same game. That's a Buccaneers corner if I've ever heard one.
I thought he sucks. That's what I was told, at least. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, look, they, having 6 sacks, it's going to help your numbers, obviously. But the pass rush that we talk about, pressure rates and stuff like that, and the pressure rates have been there for the most part, right, for them, and the sacks just weren't there. And obviously, they say with turnovers, right? They say, oh, turnovers come in bunches. A lot of people say, oh, sack, they come in bunches, like, and that could be the case. Like it definitely could be. If you think about it, actually the Bucs had, if you look at Seattle week 5 and then this week, The Bucs defense, their last two drives were interceptions. They picked off Sam Darnold to end that game. And then the very first drive against San Francisco, they pick off Mac Jones. So they had two straight drives, with an interception there. Yeah, but I mean, look, Levante with one sack. I thought Levante played a pretty strong game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Diaby with two, Dean with one, Reddick with a half, Vita Vea with a half, CJ Brewer with a half, and Elijah Roberts with a half. So I mean, we're talking about CJ Brewer and Elijah Roberts. And I understand like all the other guys like we mentioned are like bigger names, but you mentioned Tez Johnson, like those are the dudes that are contributing right now. And look, like, can you rely on them solely? No, but like you need those types of guys to make those plays at times, right? That's the difference sometimes between winning and losing.
And I think that this Lions game is a good measuring stick. I mean, we say this about every team in the NFC that they play right now, just because they're in the middle of a stretch where they're getting, top NFC talent. But I think that this Lions game is enough of a measuring stick where we can truly see the impact of some of these depth guys. Like, yeah, the Niners are a good team, good defense, and these guys are making plays. But the consistency to do that week in and week out, I think is going to be interesting to see against, top tier competition. If Tez Johnson and Cameron Johnson can find ways to be explosive against Detroit, that's huge because, again, it emphasizes the importance of those depth guys stepping up playing well. And when you compare it to last year and how desperate it felt on offense when you were without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, without Jalen McMillan, things got a little hairy. And here we are without all of those players, plus Emeka Ibuka, who's far and away been the most explosive wide receiver in the room. And they're still finding new and unique ways to get it done. Is it sustainable? Probably not. But if you can do it against two top NFC teams back-to-back weeks, and that's been a theme for this Bucs team so far this season, just finding ways to win. If they find a way to win against Detroit, I might do the podcast with my shirt off. Like, I am going to be so amped up about where the Bucs are this season, where they can ultimately end up, and we're getting to the point now where we are 6 games into this. And we've talked a little bit before. We won't talk too much about that gray area that happens in the middle of a Todd Bowles season. But it truly does feel like if any team can overcome that midseason slump, it is going to be this year's Buccaneers. And I think the depth guys continuing to step up. If they can do it again versus Detroit, like, this is a very, very good Bucs team top to bottom. Even the depth guys are above average at this point.
It is funny that when they take Ibuka, you're like, well, yeah, they played, games last year, and it was, we're sitting on here, and we're like, well, Ryan Miller was, and now we're like, oh, here he is again. Like, they got him, and they're like in the same situation. So, but yeah, I mean, look, it is pretty impressive. The Detroit matchup is interesting because Detroit is very banged up in the secondary. They actually are missing DJ Reed is on IR. He's one of their corners. Terrion Arnold actually just got injured last week. Didn't play last night against Kansas City. So those are two corners there. And we'll have to wait and see on this. He is appealing it, but I don't know if you guys didn't see it or not. But Brian Branch had an altercation basically with the entire Chiefs team.
Is that what we're gonna call it? An altercation?
Yeah. Well,
Brian Branch.
He had a little disagreement.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There was a little disagreement. But
he chose to express his displeasures.
Sure. Hey, freedom of speech, and he chose but so he actually was suspended for one game, which would be a Tampa Bay game. Now he is appealing it, so we'll have to wait and see kind of how quickly that appeal process goes. I mean, these things always, like, very rarely are they like, oh, okay, yeah, you're actually not suspended, so like he's gonna get suspended most likely. It just depends on, like, okay, which is he gonna miss Tampa Bay's game or not? But if he does, that's another guy, right? That's 3 starters in the Detroit secondary there. So that's an interesting matchup, and obviously we'll talk about Detroit, later this week. But Yeah, that is interesting, and it's a challenge, right? Because with Detroit losing, last night, the Bucs are technically the 1 seed in the NFC. Obviously, a ton of football left to be played, but we talked about this in the game preview for San Francisco about playoff seeding and stuff, those implications, and we understood that it's early, but these two games matter, right? And you got San Francisco out of the way, and you kind of got that monkey off your back, basically, because again, like the Bucs have really struggled against the 49ers. They haven't beaten them since 2018. That was a nice thing for Todd Bowles to finally beat Kyle Shanahan too. So pretty big, but we'll see against the Lions. The Bucs and Lions always seem to play some pretty tight games. So, and I think, like I said, with the injuries to the Bucs wide receiver room and with the injuries to the Lions secondary, it could be interesting, even though the Bucs might be getting Mike Evans back, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's going to be something to monitor throughout the rest of this week is the presence of injuries. Benjamin Morrison could be in play this week for the Bucs. Mike Evans could be in play for the Bucs. Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving already essentially been ruled out by Chris Godwin, but as of right now, everybody else may or may not still be on the table. Mecca Buka awaiting some further results. I think he underwent further testing. Todd Bowles had talked to the media about that, so we'll get an update on him.
Does sound like he's probably going to miss this week.
Yeah, it's the nature of a hamstring with the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
It seems like whenever the Bucs have a hamstring injury pop up, especially in that room, it's like minimum 2 to 3 games. So
yeah, to me that read like, I think Schefter said, like, he's not going to miss a lot of time, but he's going to miss some. That read to me literally as like, okay, he's going to miss Detroit, New Orleans, and then it's the bye week, and then he'll be back. That's what it read as to me.
And to kind of circle back to our point about the Bucs wanting to be overly cautious, I'm curious if this was, like if the Bucs weren't so beat up at wide receiver, do you think they would have let him go out there and play through it? And I only beg the question because, like, I had friends who were at the game who didn't know that he was out because he was just standing on the sideline, still had his helmet on, standing up, ready to go with the rest of the offense. They kept showing him on the broadcast. It's getting later and later into the third quarter, and he's just standing there, and he looks like he's ready to go in at any moment. So I'm curious if it was something that, like, you heard about Bucky Irving playing through his injury because of adrenaline or whatever the case may have been. Do you think Ibuka is the kind of guy where if the Bucs aren't already missing everybody and their mother out of that wide receiver room, they would have maybe let him give it a go?
Maybe. I do wonder if it's like, if it's a playoff game,
right?
Does he play? Like if it's a game like win or go home, but like win or this game goes to the playoffs or something. Like I do sort of wonder if he would have played, because again, they didn't rule him out immediately.
Yep.
He was doubtful first, right? So that gives me hope that it's maybe not that severe, right? Because if it's severe, you're like, oh no, yeah, this guy's done. Like he's not going back to it's pretty quickly, right? And obviously, eventually, he did get ruled out. But at first, it was like, okay, he's doubtful, right? Like he's probably not coming back, but not 100%. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on the injury report. I do think there was a scenario maybe where he could have came back, but also I think the Bucs at this point are basically like, yeah, we sort of can't afford another guy going to, and like really like, they can't afford another receiver going down. I mean, it's already tough sledding as is. Even though these guys are stepping up, he's still, you got to have your guys available, right? Like they got to be available. And, he's over the long, you can get by in a game or two, but over the long haul, it's gonna start to show a little bit. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I am expecting him to miss, I would say probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say 2 games. So I would assume you're going to see him after the bye week, which I think is the case for a couple of Tampa Bay's offensive players, to be honest with you.
I want to talk about Todd Bowles here to wrap up the show. And I want to...
Oh boy. It is very funny that Mikey mentioned it too. Like, they're 5-1. Like during halftime, people were like, "Yeah, they gotta get rid of him."
I think that is absolutely insane, and I just want to go on the record right now that anybody, anywhere that you see suggesting, "I can't wait for the Bucs to get rid of Todd Bowles," there was a guy who I'm not even going to pay it any mind because I think he's just a rage baiter on Twitter. But like people are saying, Todd Bowles should still be fired. And I truthfully think that those people are just not living in reality. Like they are living in their own mind where the Bucs are 2-3 right now. or 2-4 rather. They just
Yeah,
lost to the San Francisco 49ers again, and the defense looked terrible. Christian McCaffrey had 140 receiving yards for some reason. Like I think that people make stuff up, obviously to fit their own narrative. But the fact that Todd Bowles is being talked about, the way that he is by some people in our fan base is kind of crazy. But I think more so the point is the fact that Todd Bowles is being talked about as a potential coach of the year candidate. And I'm not saying that that's anything that we want to buy into, because very much like Baker Mayfield said last week about the MVP chatter, it's rat poison at this point in the season, right? You can't start buying into it. You can't start peeling the onion back. But I do think that right now, with the Buccaneers being the most talked about team in the NFL, Baker Mayfield being the most talked about quarterback in the NFL right now, I truly think it is important to kind of look at the situation we're in with a 5-1 start to the season, only the second time the Bucs have ever done it in the history of the franchise. And the Bucs overcoming a lot of hurdles this season that prove that Todd Bowles is doing something right. I mean, they won their primetime game, a game that everybody was like, shit, it's on primetime. They're going to lose. They win that game. They beat the 49ers, the first time Baker Mayfield has beat the 49ers in his career. And arguably before that, I think that they were, already on a good enough run where people felt good about it. But in the back of our minds, we were all like, oh, it's San Fran. It's a bad matchup for Bowles. We can write this one off as a loss. And they win that game, and they win it in the fashion that they do with the injuries that they have. I don't think you have any choice but to at least recognize what Todd Bowles is doing. And the fact that, this Buccaneers team is buying into what he's putting out. I know that we can say that maybe they are, forming to the identity of Baker Mayfield more than a Todd Bowles, but there's got to be a puppet master somewhere. And at the end of the day, I think Todd Bowles, as of right now, is doing a damn good job as Buccaneers head coach. And I'm kind of tired of hearing otherwise. I think at this point, people are just are grasping at whatever they can. And you know what? They're going to lose again at some point this season.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's when the chirping will start again. But sure. I do think that with what we've seen, the defensive improvements, right? We talked about it all offseason long. Todd Bowles making these moves on his coaching staff and with his free agent acquisitions, directly trying to address some of these criticisms. And whether you want to admit it or not, I think that has directly led to the Buccaneers winning games this season that they haven't won in previous seasons. We have a $10 super chat here from Amazement717. He said, Baker and the Bucs defense was clutch. Pass rush came alive. Shout out to the coaching staff for adjusting to all the injuries and confusing the hell out of Mac Jones. The stadium hasn't rocked that hard since the Tampa 2. One more time for Amazement717. The $10 super chat. We appreciate you, my friend. I agree. That stadium was raucous, dude. And it's week 6. We got MVP chance for Baker Mayfield and Tez Johnson, if you ask
Tez Johnson, yeah. That was good. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, Tez Johnson, the post-game interview, said like he had heard the MVP chance, and he was like, he asked Shep, he was like, is that for me? He was like, I didn't even do anything yet.
I haven't even done anything this year.
He was like, no, it's for Baker. He's like, that makes sense. Oh, that's good. Hey, if you don't think much about yourself, though, nobody else will. So you heard the MVP chance. He immediately thought, that's for me, right?
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, he keeps making catches like that. You might get some. But I mean, look, Bowles, I saw something today, actually, and it sort of like perfectly described it. It was like the Bucs win, and you hear about all you see is like trending on Twitter is like Baker Mayfield, and then the Bucs lose, and all you see is Todd Bowles.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you.
But like it is funny, and like the Bowles, the people that aren't fans of Bowles will say, well, you've had this, and this, like you could be, if this play, you barely beat the Texans, and you need a missed field goal to beat the Falcons, and you barely beat the terrible Jets, and okay, but they're like, oh, this, you could be 0-5, or you could be 1-5, like, okay, but you're not. Like at the end of the day, like that's not the way this works. Like you don't base it on that. Like at the end of the year, you're not going to evaluate a head coach. Well, I know we won 12 games, but man, oh man, should have won 7. We got to fire the guy, like that's not the way this works. Like it's a win. A win is a win. Like that's just, you shouldn't be penalized for how you win. Like, are you serious? Like, you're gonna be penalized for the way you're winning? Who cares? He is paid to win football games. That's what he is paid for to do every week, right? Go out there and find the best possible way to win the game. And they've done that 5 out of 6 times. So something's working, right? And obviously, like you mentioned, coach of the year stuff, that's a little bit harder for me than MVP just because one, like Todd Bowles isn't out there playing, like it's not, he can only control so much.
These
right?
injuries
Like,
keep up. He might be. Don't
maybe,
you make that joke
honestly,
now.
yeah, he might need to dust off them gloves and them DB gloves a little bit,
I'm
man.
telling you.
But look, I mean, again, we talk about execution all the time, right? And like execution's big. If the players just all of a sudden go through a stretch where they're simply not executing well, then that's a little bit tough, right? And if you look at the team, and this is going to be an interesting little stretch here, because if you look at the Bucs, right, and you look at sort of each year they've had under Bowles, this is sort of almost the start of the dip, most of the time, like especially the past 2 seasons with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback, like this is sort of that early mid October, lose a couple games, and luckily they've avoided that so far, right? Because it could have started with San Francisco. You lose San Francisco, then maybe you lose to Detroit, and then you're trying to like desperately get a win against the lowly Saints team. But like, look, the Saints show fight. We talked about that last episode, but that'll be interesting to see, right? Whether like does that happen again this year? Is that a Bowles thing, or can they finally avoid that? They've beaten the 49ers, they've won on prime time. Now can they avoid that sort of that mid-season low slump?
Our first call of the show from the 229. Who's this on a Victory Monday?
Hey, this is Dave.
Dave, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, I am just peachy.
Happy to hear it.
I like it.
5-1 all the way. Hey, I just want to, you gotta praise Coach Bowles. I know some people, I was watching the chat and everything, and you guys mentioned it earlier. People get upset when they lose, and they're like, fire Bowles. Somebody said earlier, who are they going to replace him with, for one? And why would you replace him? This is the 3rd offensive coordinator in 3 years, and statistically, aren't the Bucs like the best in the NFL right now in most of these areas?
Yeah, they're pretty high up there, especially offensively now. They're starting to really pick it up.
Yeah, and with all the injuries, that's the big thing. With all the injuries, the whole shuffled offensive line. The first 2-3 weeks we had, no number 1 wide receiver, no number 2 wide receiver. Your number 3 wide receiver goes down, and yet you get your 4th and 5th and 6th string wide receivers, and Baker is just baking.
Yeah. And another big thing too, I mean, you talked about the injuries on offense. The Mike Evans record that we had brought up when he went down, the Bucs at one point were 3-10 without Mike Evans in the lineup, and now that they have won 2 games since we even threw that out there, like they're finding ways to win, and they're finding ways to win in ways that they haven't before. But to your point, David, a lot of credit I think needs to be given to Josh Grizzard, because it's hard enough to stay creative and dynamic in the NFL to catch these teams by surprise, but he's doing it with his wide receiver 5, 6, 7, and 8 now in the lineup. So hopefully, I would love to see Mike Evans make a return against Detroit. That would be an interesting cog. And honestly, I think it would be a huge relief for this offense just to kind of have that guy out there who can soak up that extra attention. I know it's the first game back from injury, Mike Evans, but it's still a lot better than some of the other receivers in the NFL right now. So I'd like to see what they can do as they continue to get healthy. But it's crazy that they are just, I think leveling expectations every single week as the injury list continues to get longer. Like that's a huge deal to me. They are at this point, they are shattering my expectations, especially when injuries are brought into play, because like that was the big asterisk on the season was if they can stay healthy, they can win these games. And they haven't stayed the healthiest, but they are still winning these games. So I love to see it.
Oh, absolutely.
Dave, any final thoughts before we let you go, my friend?
No, just go Bucs. Let Baker bake. MVP all the way. Talk on.
Hell yeah, thank you. Hopefully we will hear from you soon. Go Bucs, my friend. You wrapped it all up in that one call. Really quick though, I want to spotlight one more thing while we are praising Todd Bowles. Jamel Dean got a sack, and he got a strip sack. Like we've talked about, defensive backs hitting the quarterback all season long. But the creativity in these schemes and the creativity of Todd Bowles is just continuing to be on display. He is one of the better coaches in the NFL at just showing you things that you haven't seen before. And this was another treat, if you will. Huge day for Jamel Dean.
Well, the interesting thing that Bowles did in the and Romo noted it in the first half, and then sort of switched in the second half. Bowles didn't pressure like at all in the first half.
Yeah.
One of the only pressures that where the Bowles sent a blitz was that Jamel Dean strip sack. That was almost one of the only pressures he sent at Mac Jones in the first half. In the second half, it was a little bit different. Now it wasn't like blitzes galore, but you said that the sack numbers, right, with only the four guys.
Yeah.
But like they blitzed a lot more in the second half. So I think they sort of tried to zig when the 49ers zagged, right? Like, oh, the 49ers, they think they're going to come out and they're going to throw all these blitzes at you and stuff like that. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to be playing coverage, playing back. And the 49ers offensive line has been a little up and down this year. So against, some poor offensive lines, you're able to do that sometimes, right? And I thought it was a pretty good game by, Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby. Like, I thought they all played pretty well. I thought Elijah Roberts played well as well. So that was interesting to me. There was we talk about, the halftime adjustments that Bowles makes or whatever. 49ers only scored 3 points, in the second half. So, yeah, it was a really, I think it's just an overall solid team performance, besides the missed field goal by Chase McLaughlin, which he ended up making up anyway. No special teams blunders. Like what special teams play made you go, oh my God, like there really wasn't any, right? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing that I think for the first time this entire season, there was nothing where you're looking at like special teams, you're like, oh my God, like I can't believe this or that. Like, no, they were largely fine. Like overall, like it was a solid team win.
What what are the current betting odds? And I'm sure that you could find it before we wrap up here. What are the current betting odds that Josh Grizzard is the Tennessee Titans' next head coach? Because we had a Titans YouTube channel in our comment section like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hey guys, Titans fans here. Curious your thoughts on Josh Grizzard. Thanks for getting back to us."
Yeah.
So, yeah, Brian Callahan out as head coach of the Tennessee Titans, a franchise that is in absolute turmoil.
It's a mess.
I would hope that, this isn't another season where we're talking about Josh Grizzard and his, here's a list of teams that all need a head coach. Here's a great fit. He'd look great as a New York Jet. He'd look awesome as a Titan, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, he is our guy, and I hope he remains our guy. But that's going to be something to talk about as well. I know the Bucs aren't, again, like they're not healthy. They're not fully healthy, but he's doing a really good job. And I think that with everything he's been tossed this year, they're just continuing to find ways to win these games. And what's most important above all is that Baker looks, I think, the most comfortable he ever has in a Tampa Bay Buccaneer uniform.
No, I mean, definitely. This is like the best football Baker's played, like all year.
Ever?
All year. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, ever. Like in his career. Easily. Because and look, it may just be one of those years, right? Where like you're like at the end of it, you're like, yeah, he's probably never gonna play better than that. But man, that year was insane, and it's like it might just be one of these years where sort of everything kind of clicks and you get the bounces to go your way and you get a little bit of luck and you play well, for 17 games and you see what happens, stack W's like we talked about. And because again, we talked about this before, the MVP award, sure, like you have to play well, but also your team has to be good. Like your team has to win football games. You're not gonna. I think it's gonna be pretty rare for an MVP to win, and his team be like 7-10. Like that's gonna be hard to do, right? So yeah, I mean this the level of football that he's playing at right now is just a level that you haven't really seen. Like you obviously we haven't seen since Tom Brady, but like people that have followed Baker Mayfield, like they haven't seen maybe ever, even in college, right? That what got him to be the number one overall pick. Yeah, you haven't really seen this. So yeah, he's just on a whole another level right now, and hopefully he can keep it up. Because like we talked about, it's a long season, and I'm sure the Bucs aren't done with injuries, right? Like no team is. So there's going to be other things that pop up, and hopefully they can just battle through them.
We will wrap up with special teams, and a good point brought up by Drew here in the chat. He says Vita did run into the kicker to extend a drive on special teams. That was killer.
Yeah,
and it didn't end up being that consequential at the end of the day. Bucs still win by 2 possessions, but that was one of those things where when that happened,
I was saying is like the one where it's like, oh, fire the special teams coach. Like you can't.
Right.
They're not gonna say fire the special
when
teams
that
coach
happened,
that.
though,
Like,
and it goes from a Buccaneers return a punt to San Francisco first down, I immediately thought that's a play that loses you the game against the 49ers, despite everything they had done up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little frustrated with that, and I know that you said you're not necessarily upset with Chase McLaughlin, Money Mac. I'm pissed off. He's still on my shit list. He's making me mad. It is getting to, yes, I know. Don't give me that look, dude. Don't give me that look. That game could have been so much more in hand than it was.
And then it did get in hand.
If he just makes his damn kick. And it's a problem.
I'll tell you, people with kickers
if your kicker
McLaughlin
makes his kicks
fantastic
this season
for them. Like literally fantastic, and he's just never allowed
until
to miss
this year, Evan.
What do you mean until this year? He just made the longest field goal in outside history.
Yeah,
what do you
hasn't
mean?
Been
and
fantastic.
then later on he makes a 58-yarder.
Hasn't been fantastic. He's 13 for 17 on the year, which like 82%. Not ideal.
He had a slow start. We talked about the slow start or whatever. That's behind him. He's also made 2 kicks that won the game for him.
Yeah, he could have won the game a lot sooner on Sunday if he would have made that kick.
Oh, then he did make the kick to ice the game. So
I am gonna be listen. I'm gonna be on his ass for the rest of the year. We're fine as it is right now because again, no. Here's the thing: if we can get in and out,
I think you're starting to get spoiled.
If we can get in and out, if we can get in and out without any special teams nightmares, if we can just avoid complete catastrophe from the special teams unit, which we've already seen more than twice this season, which is enough of a concern in itself. But if we can avoid
that's not
that,
Chase McLaughlin's fault.
Oh my God! I'm gonna be on his ass for the rest of the year. I don't care. He's until he has a perfect game again, until he's 3 for 3 with like 44, 47, and 39. I don't care, man. I don't care.
You also act like he missed a 25-yarder. Like what was it, 49 yards?
Bill with a great point. You don't get called Money Mac for missing for being 82%.
No, you get called Money Mac for making a 65-yard field goal. How about that? And you get called Money Mac for making 2 game-winning field goals.
You know what's funny is that if I remember correctly, he missed another kick in that Eagles game.
I don't think he did.
Then maybe I don't remember correctly. I must have been tore up, dude. The heat was getting me. We're up in the
maybe,
300s.
but I don't quite remember.
Hold on, we're gonna settle this. Let's go to Philadelphia. Okay, he was 3 for 3 against Philly. I take that back. Excuse me.
That's interesting.
I take that back. He was 3 for 3 against Philadelphia.
Yeah, because I think the thing that was his first like actual miss. I think since the Houston game. Because the Jets one the Jets one was technically a miss, but it was a block.
It scares me, and this is why I get so emotional about it. This is why I'm being dramatic. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but everything that we just spent the last hour talking about how damn good this Bucs team is right now. Can you imagine all of that being derailed because we can't get our shit together on special teams? Come on. Come
Yeah,
on.
they have
Come on.
5-1.
Come on. Could you imagine if the 5-1 Brady Buccaneers couldn't make their? Can you imagine if the Brady Bucks couldn't make their kicks?
They're fine. They largely have made their kicks.
Oh. Man, oh man.
And also, again, like if you mentioned, would you say 13 for 17? I think.
Yeah, he's
on the
13 for
field goals.
17 this year.
And technically, I think it's dumb, but like one of those is technically the block. Field goal.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Listen, I'm not a Chase hater by any means. And
Sure sounds
and
like
at one
it.
time, listen, Money Mac was, if I'm not mistaken, Money Mac
you
was
just
my
turned
moniker.
heel.
Dude, he's breaking my heart. I need less reasons to talk to my doctor week in and week out from this Bucs team, and they've done a good job. Like this week against San Francisco, executed well. Game was over in the fourth quarter. Victory formation for the first time this season. You know, I don't have to like check my blood pressure every few minutes. I don't have to have as many conversations with my doctor this week. But I've now reached a point where when our good friend Money Mac lines up for a kick, it doesn't feel like it used to.
You're acting like he's Chandler Catanzaro. Like, let's relax. Oh my god!
He's Cairo Santos out there, man.
Yeah, I mean, and Cairo Santos was he was like the definition of average. But like, honestly, like you would think they had like who was the guy? I don't remember. Was it Ryan Lindley? I think that was his name. The guy who replaced Connor Barth when Barth tore his ACL playing basketball. I think it might have been Ryan. That might be a quarterback though. But yeah, like we're talking about Chase McLaughlin, like he hasn't just been like awesome the last 2 seasons. Like, let's relax.
Lawrence Tynes?
No, that was the dude who sued him for MRSA. He was the Giants kicker when they won the Super Bowl.
He was a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, this is 2013. Something. I think it's Lindley.
I can't find anything on 2013. Oh, Pat Murray though.
Yeah, he's good.
I was a Pat Murray guy for a long time. Ryan Lindell.
Lindell, not Lindley. Okay, Lindell.
Derek Dimke, presumably cut.
That's who you're talking about, Chase McLaughlin. Like that's...
To the surprise, this is an article, by the way, from Bucs Nation. Sander Philippe, August 31st, 2013, excuse me. To the surprise of absolutely no one, Ryan Lindell has won the Bucs kicking job, according to Alex Marvez of Fox Sports. That presumably means the Bucs will cut Derek Dimke, who missed a field goal and an extra point in Thursday night's preseason game.
Yikes.
Oof, to think how far we've come. You know what? So maybe I should...
we've come, and apparently not, because...
Maybe I should... Listen, this team is too good. This team is too good for me to have to talk about... For us to have to come on this podcast and talk about special teams.
It's one missed kick. Like we talked about
one missed kick.
The first
missed
2
kick.
weeks, we talked about it.
You know the damage that one missed kick can do in the NFL? You know the power behind one missed kick?
But guess what? Then he made it. He had another shot. He made it to ice the game.
He did.
In his veins.
He did. All hail Money Mac. That's our guy.
Yeah, see? Yeah, now he turns back. There we go.
That's going to do it for today's post-game episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I want to thank you to David for calling in and everybody hanging out with us live on YouTube. Thank you to Amazement717 for the super chat. Thank you to Richard T from the West Coast. Thank you to Bill Camporis, Jared Cox, Drew Wasmuth, and Willie Beam and the moderator holding it down. Thank you to Rolf as well and our good buddy MK. We truly appreciate you guys. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. You can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL, and check out his written work at BucsNation.com. Sorry, I stuttered because I thought we had like a last-minute caller drop in, and I was trying to figure that part out. But, alas, we do not. What have you got coming up this week, my friend?
Yeah, so obviously, the Bucs are 5-1 and gonna have post-game reactions probably tomorrow, probably not tonight. And then coming up, getting ready for the Detroit game. So we'll see what it brings for the Buccaneers. Keep an eye on the injury reports for both teams also. But here on the Campfire Podcast YouTube channel, oh boy, I think betting the Bucs are 0-4. I think.
Your pick, you know what? Your pick, I was going to give you some grief about this, and then I forgot, but I'm glad that you reminded me. Your pick also missed this week because you went on your little diatribe before you made your game pick, and you're like, I'm 5-0 picking the Bucs this year.
I did.
And now you're not, my friend. So.
Okay, now I'm 5-1. You know who else is 5-1? The Bucs. So let's relax. But betting the Bucs, it didn't work. Like I had Baker Mayfield over 17.5 rushing yards, 15.
Oh God!
Kate Otten didn't find the end zone. Mac Jones, bad week. But we will have betting the Bucs where I hopefully don't go. I promise you, I'm better than 0-4 like weekly. There's gonna be somebody who watches for the first time, be like, why am I gonna watch that? Like you're just gonna lose. But betting the Bucs will be out at some point. The schedule for this week might be off a little bit in terms of like those videos because they play Monday night and not Sunday. So like the odds and stuff, I don't know when all that's going to be available. So just stay tuned to the YouTube channel. We'll also have players to watch coming out for that game as well. So stay tuned to the Cannonfire Podcast YouTube channel for all that good stuff.
Last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. And stay tuned. This Wednesday, a brand new episode of the Rondé Barber Show going to be available. Very excited to dive into it this week, get his thoughts on a Buccaneers defense that is just absolutely humming right now. So excited to see that and preview the Lions game a little bit. Might be diving into our bag of previous guests for our game preview this week against the Lions, Evan. If you're picking up what I'm putting down, we'll have to see.
As long as his name doesn't rhyme with Mames Mill, I'm okay.
No, it won't be him. It shouldn't be him. But he is showing up to my work tomorrow. He's showing up to my work tomorrow. He was the prize. He was the prize winner. Threat. He was He was the prize winner on Rondé last week.
No, really quick. And this podcast is way long. But you want to talk about somebody who's lucky. James Hill.
We need to launch an investigation into this
wins
guy.
Every contest known to mankind. Like he does. He won a couple months ago. Thousands of entries went in. Thousands of them to win Madden 26 for the PS5. He freaking wins it. How? It was on Twitter. It was that Ari Mirov guy or whatever who has like 300,000 followers on Twitter.
I think more.
And
I think
like
more.
Freaking 10,000 people entered, and he wins it.
Yeah.
And then he wins a signed Christian Isian football, and then he just wins this contest. Like, what in the world's going on here?
I don't know, but we need to look into that guy.
Somebody needs to investigate it.
Yeah, Jared Cox. He won the Gus Swayze competition too. I'm telling you, he's built to win. He's built to win. He's like
he is.
He's like the Tom Brady of Bucs YouTube. Richard T with our final question of the show. Are you going to go live right after the Lions game? Yes, sir, we are, Richard T. It's going to be a late night one, but we are back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Luckily, it's a doubleheader for Monday night, and the Bucs are the first game, so it won't be as late, luckily.
Beautiful. Yeah, we are going to be back to our regularly scheduled program. This was the only weekend, where we had to move the post game. Things got a little topsy-turvy. I was on the road for most of Sunday, so just wasn't able to make it home in time. But glad we were able to jump on today, give you some post-game thoughts. And, of course, we will have some more Buccaneers versus Lions content coming up this week on the Cannon Fire YouTube channel. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.